Yeah, so basically we started with Spring Core module. The first thing what we learned from this core module is what is IOC container. What is IOC container? Basically IOC container, which is who creates and manages objects of the Spring application. Okay, so when we talk about containers, containers will create and manage your application objects. Okay, so imagine without a main method how you can run a Java class. It is impossible. A main method is required, so you can treat that main method as a container. You can treat that main method as a container. So in main method, by using new keyword, we create manually. Okay, though via main method we can able to run the application, we need new keyword to create a object. But generally containers will not use any new keyword. Containers will not use any new keyword. Okay, how we can give an example is, let's say I have a student management system application developed in servlets, and you will never see any servlet object using new keyword. You will never see any servlet objects or filters objects using new keyword, because you are not going to create objects to them. Instead of you, Tomcat container during runtime it will create objects to them. Instead of we creating, server create objects with them. So that objects will help you to create your application. Same way something customer banking application using EJBs I implemented. Using EJBs, if I implement EJB objects also, we are not going to create EJB session beans, entity beans. Okay, these are not part of Spring, just giving you example. Okay, EJB objects are managed by application servers like WebLogic, WebSphere. They will create objects for your EJBs. Okay, and using a WebLogic or WebSphere kind of server, it cost more than $10,000 per year. Maybe that is the license cost. So instead of using these containers, Spring came up with the self container. Okay, Spring came up with the self container. Wherever it goes, wherever you use Spring, along with the Spring libraries, it is going to provide you IOC container also. It is going to provide you IOC container also, which is free. Easily you can use to run all your Spring classes. Easy to run, easy to configure also. Is it a special software IOC container like WebLogic Tomcat means? No, it is a simple Java class only. Okay, write a simple Java class. Inside main method we do create this container object, and it will create objects for your entire Spring application. It is a simple Java class. Okay, I created one employee management system, sir, by using Spring. Where do I run it? Employee management system application I created using Spring framework. Where do I run? You are finally running your Spring application in IOC container only. Okay, IOC container only. So where do I found this IOC container? Where I can find it means in your Spring jar files only. Spring provided lot of jar files, right? Lot of jar files you will be getting. You can download from our link also, right? Here you have all the jar files. If you go to this first option, right, download Spring jars, you will get all the Spring jar files. Okay, once again I am sharing this link with you. Download all the jar files from that link. Download all the necessary jar files. Everything is mandatory, just download them. You will get all bunch of jar files from there. Okay, so I'll get jar files, sir. Then how I can use IOC? I'll show you. So when you create an application, generally backend code we write using Spring. So in the backend what we write, mostly we write controllers, service classes, DAO classes 99% of time. Additional to these classes, few configuration classes we write. Few configuration classes. Okay, we talk about them in detail later. Just a minute. So for example, for employee management system, I have an employee registration form, sir. How I am going to use IOC container in this use case? Okay, Forget about front end. Front end will be managed by your browser. Front end will be managed by your browser. Just let's talk about backend. Let's talk about backend. This is the front end part, and this side is the backend part. So in the backend, you need to write a controller service DAO, and DAOs will connect with database. Controller will connect with your front end. So from front end, we read data in controller. Controller will forward data to service, service to DAO, DAO to database. Okay. Yeah. So I have returned controller service DAO classes, sir. How IOC container will create object? Nothing. Either you have to configure your classes with annotations, or you need to configure your classes into a Spring XML file first. Okay, I returned class 1 class controller, sir, second class service, third class DAO, sir. What I should do next? Okay, you created them. Perfect. Configure that classes into XML file. Spring XML file. Create one XML file, configure your classes, and load this class into IOC container. Right, step by step. First you need to write classes. First step, you need to write all these classes. Second step, you need to load it into XML. Then XML you need to load it into IOC. Then when you start this IOC, IOC is a container, right? It will not sit idle. It will read your XML file. From XML file it will read your classes, your controller, your service DAO, and immediately it will create objects to them. Okay, how many types of containers we have here? Spring given IOC, not a single container. They given two types of containers. One is BeanFactory, which is a lazy container, and one is ApplicationContext. Both can create objects, but BeanFactory we will never use. Okay, BeanFactory is a older one and a lazy container that is not useful for programming. Okay, this is not useful for programming, so we don't use it. So which one we use? ApplicationContext only. Why BeanFactory is not useful? Because there are no features in BeanFactory, just it will create objects. There are lot of additional features as a container we need. All that features are part of ApplicationContext only. Okay, so BeanFactory or ApplicationContext, they can create objects for you. How they will create? BeanFactory is a lazy one. It create objects at first user request. Sir, I created classes, I configured them in XML file, I loaded my XML file into IOC. Will it create objects, sir? BeanFactory will not create. But in place of BeanFactory, if I use ApplicationContext, as soon as you start your IOC container, it will create objects. BeanFactory is a lazy one. Until unless you request for that first object, it won't create it. Okay, anyway, BeanFactory also can create, but it create objects at first user request. For example, sir, I created one application, sir. I created one application like OTT application. There I am playing movies. So movie objects my application need to create. Okay, so for that OTT movie object, so I have created a OTT application. I'm just giving you a silly use case, but it will make you understand, okay, how BeanFactory will work. So I have a OTT app, sir, and in this OTT app I have a movies class. This movies class object I wanted to create. Let's say if you use BeanFactory here, so in this OTT platform, let's say Abhishek came here and he asked or he tried to open this OTT platform and he tried to open this movie. This movie is not yet ready in this OTT platform. He is the first guy who is opening this movie, who is trying to watch this movie. So when he tried to watch this movie, basically if this movie object is getting created by BeanFactory, when Abhishek requested, then it will prepare that movie object, reading movie data from database or file. Before streaming it, right, it need to prepare that object, right? So the entire movie object will be prepared at Abhishek request. When Abhishek requested, it will go and read movie object. BeanFactory will create maybe this movie object, right? To read data or to stream data, maybe it need movie data from a database or a Kafka somewhere. It need to read first time, right? First time he is watching, so it may take lot of time to read, and continuously for him it will rotate for 5-10 minutes, then it will start playing, because to construct that object it may need lot of time. But instead of BeanFactory, if they could have used application context, if they could have used application context as a container, how it will play your movie. Application context will create this movie object even this first user request, right? Even first user need not to request. Even before first user request itself, it will prepare movie object and it will keep it ready in this OTT platform. It will keep it ready in OTT platform. So if Abhishek or Ravi or whoever, Pavan, when you try to watch that movie, directly it will play and show it to you, though you are a first user also, because it is already prepared. When you go to a hotel and if you order for a biryani, if chef he starts cooking biryani now, it will end up by next 1 hour or 2 hours he will prepare and give it to us. But if it is already prepared, he will serve it to us. So you can see that difference here. Application context will prepare all your objects upfront. Whenever you start your application itself, it will prepare objects. So whoever end user interact with application, immediately he will get objects. Whereas BeanFactory will not create any objects until unless somebody request. Okay, so this is the perfect example. Okay, this is the perfect example. Okay, whereas application context will create it ready made and it will make it available, whereas BeanFactory instantly it will create instantly as and when first user requested. After first user, both will maintain the same object. Let's say Abhishek watched a movie, again will it kill it this object? No, it will keep it on. That object will be still alive. That object is still alive. Another 10 users or 15 users or 1 million users watch that movie, same object it will serve it to everyone. Same object it will serve it to everyone, so that it is need not to create another new object. Same object it will be utilized, so that it will save lot of memory. In that particular platform. It will save lot of memory in that particular platform. Okay, so yeah, that is the key concept of application context and BeanFactory. Both are IOC containers. Okay, both are IOC containers. Yesterday I given an example of Swiggy also. Okay, so if it is a BeanFactory, until unless first user request, it will not create any orders objects. So first user need to wait for long time to receive his order. Yeah, and one more thing, as I said here, it create objects at first user request and continue with the same object. So what we call it as singleton. Okay, it will create one object only, we call it as singleton. If it create many objects, you can call it as prototype. Singleton is always recommended. Okay, singleton is always recommended, though it is a Swiggy, Zomato or e-commerce or OTT. Whatever objects you have behind the scene, whatever classes you have created, it is really need not to create so many objects. If it is a prototype, imagine Swiggy as a use case. Okay, Swiggy, if you take as a use case, daily millions of users request Swiggy or Zomato for orders. If it is a prototype, your objects are prototype. For every user, it need to create a brand new object. Means every user need to wait in the queue. Internally, your system need to create objects to them first. Instead of serving them, it will create objects first, then it will execute their request. Ravi submitted his request. Something he is trying to ordering food, biryani. He ordered it. Order objects are not ready yet. His data, whatever data he submitted, that data will wait in queue. then your IOC will start creating objects. It will be happening for every user, Ravi, Ganesh, Santosh. For every user it need to create a brand new object. See, unnecessary of objects creation step we are putting here if we put prototype. So instead of prototype, if we go with singleton, only one time it will create object. Basically in real time we are going to use application context. We are going to use application context. So when I use application context during Swiggy deployment itself, right, they will move their code to productions right after coding. So once they move their code to production and when they start Swiggy server, immediately it will create all the order objects, order controller, order service and order DAO. So either you are a first user or a 1 million user, it will serve the same object. Objects are ready, just it will take your data and it will finish with your order. It will take your data, it will finish with your order. So that's how singleton work. Prototype is not at all recommended. Prototype is not at all recommended. If you go with the prototype, it will continuously create objects for every user. By some time your production server RAM must burn and it may burst. Yes, it may happen. Okay, so that is what we can see as an example here, right? I have a order controller. I have a order controller here. Simple Swiggy as an example we have taken. So I'll give one more example with OTT movie also. Okay, so I have a order controller. Order controller, just I have placed one constructor here to make you understand. While creation of order controller object, this is the first component will execute, right? To create objects, constructors will execute. Without constructors, no object. So when IOC try to create an object, we can observe how this object is creating. Okay, so here order object is created, DAO object, service object. So how I am going to create these objects? I am not going to use any new keyword. I'll just configure these three classes into my XML file. Just you need to create one Spring XML file. The main root tag is beans. Inside beans we can use bean tag. So for each object, for each class, right, configure your class name here. Controller class, service class, DAO class with unique IDs. You can use any ID here, but that should be unique. ID should be unique. You can use any ID here, A, B, C, like that. You can use any ID. I just use here O-C, order controller, order service, order DAO. That's it. As a next step, I am loading this XML into IOC container. First I used this lazy container. And this for loop, imagine like multiple users, 1000 users. 1000 for loops means 1000 users are connecting with this BeanFactory for objects. Which object? Order controller, order service, order DAO. Just they want to place orders. So when I execute it, as it is a BeanFactory, right, it will create object at first user. 1000 loops it will iterate. First loop means first user. For first user only it will create object. From the next user onwards it will use the same object. So iteration 1 means first user. For first user it is creating order objects and all. From the next user onwards it is not creating anything, if you observe. So first user waiting in the queue. First user, he is a unlucky user. For BeanFactory he is an unlucky user because he need to wait for long time to create that objects. But if I go with application context, okay, even for first iteration before, even it is coming to this loop, before coming into this loop itself, at the line number 10 itself it will create all your objects. As you are loading your XML file, right, it is creating your objects. If you see 1000 users place orders, but before first iteration means first user itself. Even first user itself, if you see, it is created your controller object, service, DAO. So it is eager container, it will create your objects immediately. So the one more example if you want, right, one more example if you want. just to remember the things easily, right? I'm just giving you this example, OTT example. So you need to create a Java project, go to build path, configure build path, add external jars, adding all the jar files, apply. So I'm creating a package com.rbu.ott. I'm here creating one movie object. Something Bahubali movie. System.out.println movie loading. So to load this, I'll intentionally put some thread sleep time to load this object. Thread dot sleep 5 seconds, 5 into 1000, 5 seconds. Intentionally I'll make it because in real time we will read it from a file or database, it will take some time. Okay, so intentionally I'm making it 10 seconds waiting time. After this waiting, loaded, you can watch. Now configure this movie object into XML file. com dot what is the package name, rbu.ott. Yeah, by default it is singleton, only one time it will be created. Okay, yeah, something movie, ID is movie. Now I will load this into container. Which container? First container, lazy container. First is a lazy container. If I load it via lazy container, system.out.println, Ravi want to watch Bahubali. He want to watch Bahubali. So what he is doing? He is trying to get object BeanFactory dot get bean of movie object. The ID is movie, right? So movie object. He is trying to fetch that movie object. And next user, second user is okay. Ganesh want to watch the same movie. Watch Bahubali. He is also getting movie object. Third user, Pawan want to watch same movie object only, using BeanFactory we are getting. Okay, same movie object only we are getting. Abhishek. Finally he is trying to watching. See, try to execute it. See who will wait for long time here. Ravi want to watch Bahubali movie. Bahubali movie is loading to him. Bahubali movie is loaded and you can watch. So when Ganesh and Pawan, Abhishek requested, it is not taking time to them, but for him it is taking time. So whatever movie loaded, everybody can watch. Ravi can watch now. Ravi can watch. So here when Ganesh want to watch, after fetching the object, Ganesh can watch. You see the difference, okay? When Ravi want to watch Bahubali movie. Bahubali movie is loading, so it is taking some time to him. After 10 seconds it will be ready. Bahubali movie loaded, you can watch. Ravi can watch Bahubali now. Ganesh want to watch Bahubali, Ganesh can watch. See, immediately for Ganesh, Pawan, Abhishek, immediately they can able to watch the movie. But why for Ravi it is taking time? Means for Ravi only first it is loading. So that's the reason he is waiting for 10 seconds. Imagine the same use case for other applications, e-commerce or Swiggy, any other platforms. First users must wait. That's not a good practice, because for first user, if movie is not loaded properly, if there is a issue, continuously same issue will produce it to other users also, right? Instead of that, during application startup itself, if movie is loaded already, if there are any issues with that movie loading and all, may be addressed by the developers. If there is any problem also inside movie loading, so you should not use this BeanFactory. Same thing, let me put it in this second client, ApplicationContext, which we use in real time. Same code with the ApplicationContext container I am running it. See, Bahubali movie is loading first, not even for Ravi. While server startup itself, Bahubali movie is loading. Bahubali movie loaded, you can watch. Anybody can watch. Ravi want to watch Bahubali, immediately Ravi can watch. Ganesh want to watch, Ganesh can watch. So for everybody now it is giving or executing very faster. Even before Ravi's request itself, the movie got loaded. In real time, when they start server itself, it will be executed. Movie is loaded already. Servers started, movie is loaded. So even you log in or I log in, immediately it will serve that movie to us, because that movie is already loaded. You need not to wait until that movie is loading into the memory, right? You can correlate, right? So this is how they will show the difference. What if I go with the prototype? One time loading movie is enough to everybody to watch. You need not to repeatedly load that. What happens if you repeatedly load it? If you use prototype means multiple objects it will create. That is not recommended. If I use prototype, in prototype, for every user, Ravi want to watch Bahubali movie, loading for him. Okay, Ravi can watch. Ganesh want to watch Bahubali, again for him it is loading. Ganesh want to watch. Ganesh can watch. When Pawan want to watch, again for Pawan it is loading. For Abhishek, Bahubali movie loading. See, when you want to watch, it is continuously loading for everyone. Why? Because it is prototype. Means a brand new object it is creating. That is not at all recommended. Why? Because in server itself it will take lot of memory. If 1 million users request same movie only, why it should load 1 million times? It will sweep your memory, right? It may not able to serve you. Your server may not able to serve you if that many times the object is getting created. So always what I recommend is you use singleton. You use singleton here instead of prototype. Singleton always creates only one object, and that object is readily available for everyone. So within fraction of time, see, the advantage is it will not take much time to serve that object because already objects are prepared, and only one object is created, so that it will not consume lot of memory. It will not consume lot of memory, just it will use same memory for every user. Okay, you got the key difference, right? The key difference between application context and BeanFactory, and what is singleton and prototype also, right? Yeah, it must be clear. Okay, yeah. So